views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we urge you to like and share them on Facebook and other social media because it's time for who we fondly refer to as your family. The Sue Ellen Sanders Show. Sue Ellen Sanders.
Welcome to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, and I'm so glad to be here with you. In the years that I've been part of the community in St. Lucie County, there have been a number of different organizations that I've been involved with. And you know how it is when you live and work in an area, your life changes, and then you have like organizations you're involved with when your kids are little and organizations you're involved with when you're at one job or another. And you know, maybe your dad dies of heart disease, so you spend 10 years volunteering for the Heart Association. There's a lot of different really worthwhile organizations to be involved with in St. Lucie County on the Treasure Coast. And I have with me two women who I talk about different organizations because both of them are people who have a lot of different hats in their bag. And Debi Butler is with us today. Deb and Chris Adams. Chris is most recently was gainfully employed by the United Way, but you also probably heard her on my show dozens of times, at least, talking about Heathcote Botanical Gardens. And Deb and thought she was retiring to this area a few years back, and instead she founded an organization that helps children who are going through who are caught in the middle with the Guardian Ad Litem program and with other programs that are needy. And that organization is just flying out of my mind.
It's Guardians for New Futures.
Guardians for New Futures. And that's how I first met both of these ladies. But they have been involved with very many other organizations too, and they were primary to beginning a new organization that I'm also lucky to be a part of. And it's called Impact 100. And we're going to be talking about, we've had you, when you were first starting Impact 100, we had, I think it was probably the two of you.
No, I think it was Chris.
Oh.
Yeah.
If it was
She's
before
ahead of me.
breakfast,
Okay.
I probably don't know.
Why is it that we remember the complete lyrics of songs from 20 years ago, but we can't remember what we did yesterday? What is with that?
I don't know. It's called old age for me, but you know.
No. Not at all. At any rate, we've talked about the organization, but if you weren't listening to that particular show, Impact 100 is an organization that is a group of women who have come together to make an impact on their community. And Impact 100 of St. Lucie County does just that. So let's talk more about it.
Okay. Well, the concept of Impact 100 is, as you said, at least 100 women coming together. They donate $1,100 for the membership, and then they, after a process of grant reviews, letters of intent, they select several organizations for a final application. Then at an award event, they vote on there'll be probably 3 finalists. They'll vote on the final application, or the finalist, who will then receive $100,000.
$100,000. It's worth repeating because
yes.
it is a life-changing amount.
It is. And the I guess the most important part of that is that, as you said, it is life changing for people and the organization, and the projects need to be transformational and sustainable. So, this can take an organization to the next level where they may be able to then apply for other kinds of funding. Um, and one thing, I'll want Chris to jump in as she can, but I was just saying to Sue Ellen, and Chris has heard me say this probably a billion times, but one of the most amazing things, not only of being able to give $100,000 to an organization within our community, but I have met the most amazing women through Impact 100. And women, I know a lot of people, but I have met women that were not in my sphere at all. This whole sisterhood is just an amazing group of women. Don't you agree?
I would absolutely agree, Debbie. I think you and I and Sue Ellen too know a lot of women in this community, and yet
there were
I don't
very
wanna
many
say-
more we didn't know.
I would say at least half of the women
Yeah.
I'd never even heard their name.
Right.
I mean, there's certainly a lot of women. Oh yes, I've seen her around. I'm not friendly necessarily with them, but that part has really been a bonus.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the missions when we started out with our small group of organizing members was that we wanted our Impact 100 to be the most diverse in the nation. And Chris, I don't know, is it 50? How many chapters are in the U.S.? 50 some?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Over 50.
Yeah. So we really worked hard to, seek out our friends and colleagues that have a diverse background, or that they're unique. I mean, we have Ecuadorians, African Americans. I can go on and on. It's just amazing. And somebody was laughing the other day and said I was looking now for the cook and the Indian chief. I mean, really, we have
Because
and
all different professions are
And
retired.
young
Yes.
and old and people
and very young.
Yes.
Yeah, some of them are very, very young. And I also think that our chapter may be different from a lot of chapters in that I'd be willing to bet that for many of these women, the $1,100 that they give to Impact 100 is a fairly large chunk of their philanthropic giving.
Yes, I agree.
So, and that's a point well taken because it's not a bunch of rich women that are sitting around a table writing checks.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's very interesting, and Chris and I have talked about this, and that when we were starting, some of the women that I, tried to recruit, I thought, man, they're going to be on board just like that. And then the other ones, I thought, this is maybe a financial struggle. The ones that I thought it was going to be a financial struggle, those women were on board right away. They were the women that really wanted their philanthropic gift to go to the to their passion. So it really we were surprised.
Yes.
And the other thing that's interesting about it is how the different women have found ways to fund that $1,100 because it's not a one-time thing either. Each year you are going to be giving an Impact 100 gift of $100,000 and maybe two if the way things are going, because
Right.
you said now there's 123
Women, yes. And our goal is to have at least 200 by this time next year, so that when we award our grant, we will be able to award two $100,000 grants.
So that and that's every year.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
just, it's astounding when you think about it. And, you know, before we go any farther, I have to tell you that when your organization, when you first founded the group
Yes.
and got together and started reaching out to different people that you knew were involved in different organizations, were involved in different committees, felt like they needed to give back to the community. I was contacted by a few different people that were part of that initial group. And every time I would say to them, and I would say to myself, gosh, I really wish that I could do this. Yes, I really wish I could. I really wish I had $1,100 that I could do this for. And then I got to thinking outside the box. And, you know, every year I do fundraisers that I give money to charity, and most of them do involve running or beer, or in the case of the Sailfish Beer Mile, both.
I like both.
And so I talked to the folks at Sailfish Brewery, who are a organizer with me because they donate all the beer. And I said, you know, I want to join this organization, and I want 1,100 of our profits each year that we do the beer mile to fund that. And they thought it was a great idea.
Yes. And I'm so glad you think outside the box, Sue Ellen, because we actually have other women who have received a sponsorship from other organizations or their husband's business, or so, you know, there are other ways for us to be able to you know, fund the membership. And I think well, you already know this because Chloe and Rowan played soccer together, but my husband and I sponsored Rowan for Impact 100 because I felt that if we did not share the philanthropic ideas with her, then we were doing an injustice to her and our community. So we have had members who have either sponsored their daughter, their, you know, some other woman in their life. So
you have multi-generations
yes,
of
thankfully,
members.
yes.
And as a matter of fact, I know another woman whose granddaughter, she gifted Impact 100 membership, and I had the privilege of teaching her daughter last year, her granddaughter. And, you know, setting an example for other people around you is so important.
Yes.
And, you know, you could write $1,000 check to Rowan, and it would probably not mean as much to her as you gifting her this opportunity to change lives.
Yes.
And not just once, but every year.
Yes, yes.
Because our kids and our grandkids, they don't just all of a sudden wake up one morning and become someone who wants to give back to the community.
Right.
They're raised to be that way. They're raised to understand that no matter how much you have or how little you have, there's always room for you to give back. And, you know, Chris, as somebody who's worked, how many years did you put in it at the United Way?
21.
Wow.
Good years. I
21
loved every one of them.
great years. And as a matter of fact, that's what Chris and I go. I think that's probably where we first met, because maybe 15 years ago or something like that, my husband and I chaired the capital campaign for the United Way. And I signed up when I was helping to raise the money for the capital campaign. I signed up for what I thought was the richest group of donators, that surely this group of people, because their average income salary was so high, surely they would be the greatest givers, and I would look like a hero. And what I found out was actually that the people who had the least amount to give were the ones who gave the greatest percentage of their salary.
Yes, and I think that's true nationwide.
And it was a life-changing thought for me, and it made me realize that people will give back wherever they are, however they are, and there are people. I know another organization that Chris and I have both been involved with too, the Julia Project for Hands. The Hands Clinic, they've had people that they've helped who have turned around and come back to them and just given them a $5 bill and said, here, use this to help somebody else. So,
I agree with you 100% because I think it's really individuals that have had a struggle or some challenge in their life, they understand what the need is. And they then, I think, are the ones that want to be able to pay it forward. And like I said, when I was recruiting some of my friends and colleagues, I was surprised at the women that didn't join, and I was equally surprised and humbled by the women that did.
Yeah, I would agree. It was, I've done, and you have done fundraising, for a lot of years. But I don't know. Somehow this was much more pointed than I.
It was a
had
different
noticed it
kind of,
before.
well, because it was a more personal
Right.
I suppose
type
that's
of,
true.
of fundraising.
Yes.
But at any rate, it's really exciting to be a part of it and to hear you all talk about it. The workshop that took place a couple weeks ago, where you invited potential organizations who wanted to submit a letter of intent to apply for the grant, was very well attended.
Yes, we had, and we are very grateful to Dean Barry and Dr. Massey for allowing us to use the safety training complex at IRSC to, launch this. And I think we had something like 80 people, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yes.
there were a lot. So I didn't recognize everybody because I'm too busy talking, right? So I don't know. Maybe Sue Ellen can share.
Well,
with
I
us,
know,
so.
I know. Mindy was there with the Inner
Yes,
Truth Project, and Dr. Andy was there with the Hands Clinic.
Jeff from Tykes and
Jeff
Teens.
from Tykes and Teens, and you had
New Horizons.
New Horizons, Alpi. You had, of course, the folks from the Early Learning Coalition, myself,
Right.
and our program director. But there were Safe Space. I saw Safe Space there, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have the list, but
Yeah.
Yes.
we were very
Yeah.
pleased, right?
But
Yes.
there were people that work for or volunteered for nonprofit organizations from all over St. Lucie County.
And I think that there were also a fair number of organizations represented that were there just to find out more information. They may not be at the point where they could handle a $100,000 grant, but they wanted to know about it.
Right.
Well, and this is something else that Deb and I were discussing before you got here. The fact that just knowing that this grant is out there, or two of them, as it probably will be by next
Yes.
year.
Yes.
Uh,
if Chris and I and our other organizing members have anything to do with it, it's going to probably be more than 200, right?
So then you'll
bet.
have some more
Upward
left
and
over.
onward.
Yes, but even if it's something that an organization looks at and says, "Well, I don't really have an idea for it. I don't really have $100,000. That's a lot of money," and but it's pie in the sky. It's something that you could be thinking of down the road, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, maybe you're gonna wake up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night and think, oh, this is what I really want to do to change the world in my own way here in St. Lucie County.
And that's the kind of thinking that we want.
Right.
And I think that part of our challenge will be finding a project that is transformational, is sustainable, and that people and organizations can do it. It's a in a lot of ways, it's a very different way for organizations to look at the grant making process. They're used to getting $1,500, $5,000, maybe $50,000 if they're very, very lucky.
So what you're looking for when it comes to a project
Yes.
is something that is A, life-changing,
Yes.
but B, importantly, sustainable.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if you got the grant this year, you're not going to get another 100,000 next year.
That is
Right.
very true.
Exactly.
What else are you looking for in terms of now the letters of intent we're already doing, you already have them. So
Right.
Right.
so if you're listening to the show and you have an idea, you've got to save it for next year.
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
But that's okay because we're going to talk about what you're looking for anyhow, because a lot of these ideas need some time to be developed. Or perhaps you may want to talk to another organization because I know you look very highly upon collaborative
Yes,
efforts.
Absolutely.
And it will be interesting to see if any of the letters of intent are more than one organization working together.
Exactly. Before we forget it, though, I do want to bring up something that's very important to us as well, and that is that on April 17th, that will be our inaugural award celebration. So that's when all of the women come together and vote on the finalists for the $100,000 award. And we are looking for sponsorship for this event. So we're looking to, organizations to sponsor at some level. So, all they have to do is contact Chris or I, and we will be happy to send them information about the sponsorship levels and what that involves. And I would hope that anybody that's listening that has a business, that they would understand, we're pretty sure we're going to get a lot of press during this award celebration.
Especially this first one.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's really a very good marketing opportunity for not a lot of money.
What type of level of sponsorships do you have, if I might ask?
Wow, isn't that interesting?
Funny you
Because
should
you
ask.
have the
Funny you
information
should
right
ask,
there. Funny I should ask.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do have the information here. So, just so you know, I always carry around a packet for anyone who wants to join or wants to sponsor. So the sponsorship levels start at $5,000, and that's a presenting sponsor. That's an impact sponsor that would have a speaking opportunity, and they get a full page ad on the event cover. They get award tickets. So I won't go into all the other details, but there's a level 2 called the Believer sponsor, which is only $250. And in between that, we have like a $2,500, $1,000, a $500. So again, these are great opportunities for.
So anywhere between $250 and $5,000.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, an individual could, do a $250.
And then as a sponsor, you have a sponsor package for them, and you could give them more detail about
Yes.
that. A lot of this information is available online.
Correct.
Because you've got the information online. And, people may be doing the math in their head and saying, okay, $1,000 you're donating per person, so where's the other 100 go? And the other 100 is for administrative costs, which include our administration gurus,
Right.
who are the women with the Martin and St. Lucie Foundation.
Correct.
Yes.
It used to be called the Martin County Community Foundation, and they have now changed their name to the Community Foundation Martin St. Lucie. And they are our fiscal agent. And when we first started talking about Impact 100, we wanted to do it then. We wanted to get it up and running as soon as possible. So we didn't want to have to go through a process of, becoming a 501c3, because we are that through the Community Foundation of Martin St. Lucie.
Which is funny that becoming a 501c3 is both time consuming
Oh, yes.
and fairly
And
expensive.
expensive.
Exactly. And, all of us that are, in Impact 100 St. Lucie, we want to give, and we want to be as involved and as uninvolved as need be, depending on what's going on in our life. So this was a great way for us not to have to worry about the infrastructure or any of the, back office issues. And of course, they've been around forever. I don't know how many years, but what a great partner. So that is, and I think it's great too that they've changed their name.
I do, yes. So they have a fully developed website with information on Impact 100.
Yes.
Yes, and you can Google Impact 100 St. Lucie, and it will take you.
Right
well,
there.
we have a little quirk because they changed.
Oh,
Because
the name.
because they changed their name. I have our webmaster working on the URL because when it's going back to the Martin County Community Foundation, which says
we're not
the link.
around
Yeah,
anymore.
right. So, so if you want information about Impact 100 now, before we get this resolved, you can just Google the Community Foundation Martin St. Lucie, and it will take you to their website, which has our webpage on it, as well as the webpage for Impact 100 Martin. And our sisters who launched had their first inaugural award last year. Our sisters have been amazing with helping us with, just letters and documents and things that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We could just tweak what we needed.
And they also know what worked and what didn't work for
And
them.
Exactly.
And this is true of all of the Impact 100 folks that we have contacted throughout the country.
I know at the workshop you had a gentleman who asked the question, can guys be a part of it? And the fact of the matter is, no, they cannot. But they can sponsor somebody to be a part of it.
Yes.
Absolutely. They can sponsor someone. They can provide a donation. They can, we're happy to, accept their money. And the concept really was started in Cincinnati by a woman by the name of Wendy Steele. And I think her background was actually in banking. And, the concept is it's women coming together to collectively transform, the community.
You have three main areas of consideration, and I know one is literacy and education, but all of them have to do with the needs of women and children and families.
Right.
Yes.
And
Health and wellness.
Health and wellness is one.
sorry, I don't have my LOI information with me.
I thought I did, but I don't.
So literacy and education, health and wellness, and the
And something
third
else.
one
Yeah.
is
Yes.
Yeah, and we've been kind of
We
open
did. Yeah.
about this because really, truly, we said in the beginning, we may not even know what the needs are of the community.
until you read about it.
Exactly.
Until you hear about it.
Exactly. So, but you could go on the Community Foundation Martin St. Lucie and look on our page, Impact 100 St. Lucie, and all the information is there about everything from sponsorship to membership to who we are, our members. And the LOI, there's a calendar and timeline.
So now that you have already had the letter of intent, which was just a 2-page overview of
Correct.
your proposed idea, and that's due, and your members, it's already past the due date, and your members are now going to be looking at, the members of the committee that are working on it will be looking at culling down some of those to move forward, and they will be invited for the full grant process. And that's the other thing I really like about the way you've set up the whole funding mechanism, is because sometimes it takes 4 or 5 hours or more to put, or 4 or 5 days to put together a grant. And the way Impact 100 has it structured is you have a 2-page letter of intent that describes and answers some basic questions. And then so you said that you had over 25 people who did submit a letter of intent, and so some of them are going to move forward to the grant writing process, and then some are going to just revamp for next year.
Exactly. And then, yes, I don't even know how many women we have on the grant review process committee, but they're all very business savvy. I mean, I think we're poised well for the review of the LOIs. And yes, we will cull it down and then invite those that we think would be successful, transformational, and sustainable. We'll invite them for a full grant application. And I agree with you, Sue Ellen, 100%. Sitting down, writing a grant application can be, especially for a nonprofit that's small or is totally volunteer, is painful. And then, you spend all of that time and energy, and you're not accepted. So
And you find out that wasn't what they wanted.
Exactly.
So you've never had a chance of being accepted.
Right.
So the 2-page LOI, letter of intent, I think is just perfect for everyone. And then after that, after the grant applications are, or after the grants, what am I saying?
After the letter of intent, people are invited to move on to the grant process.
Exactly. Then the grant review committee will then do site visits, ask the additional questions, etc. And then they'll come back together and decide on the finalists that will be invited to the inaugural award celebration. So that nonprofits will be notified, I think, April 4th or April 5th of whether they will be invited to present at the award celebration. And as you know, as a member of Impact 100, that it's at that time, at that award celebration, that the women, those 123 women, vote for the finalists that they think will be transformational and sustainable.
So there won't be a waiting period after that day. Before
they
they
don't.
walk out of the door,
Yes.
the winner will know
Exactly.
of the first Impact 100, will know who they are.
And
Exactly.
because we have more than $100,000, the $100,000 will go to the winner, if you will, the number one organization, and the second and third organizations will split the remainder of the money.
So they'll walk away with something.
Yes.
Yep.
The other aspect I thought was interesting was the organization that makes it to the finalists. the CEO of the organization needs to be the one that's presenting,
Absolutely.
which really makes a difference, because then and you do the site visits, that the whole organization is on board,
Exactly.
and that it's not something that the whole organization isn't going to be able to support.
Yes, and that's a great point, Sue Ellen, because at the award celebration, they're allowed 7 minutes to present. There's no dog and pony show. There's no PowerPoint.
Yeah, there's no
It's just
PowerPoint. There's
everybody's- yeah,
you can't
everybody's
bring
on-
pictures. You can't.
Right, everybody's on equal footing.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you are a nonprofit that has a budget of 50 million or 500,000. You have or 5,000. You have an equal opportunity to win.
Yes, yes. And I think Chris can share probably some examples of some awards that have been given, and some of the across the nation.
In
And,
other counties in other states. Yep.
Well, and even here in Florida, there are several chapters here in Florida, and the one in Indian River County does present 4 grants each
Every year.
every
Wow.
year, which is pretty
Yes.
amazing.
Hey, we're almost halfway there.
Yes,
Yeah.
right,
right.
right.
Yes. One of the grants that somehow always stays in my mind is the mobile unit for people to take showers, that I believe was first done in Palm Beach County. And now, in addition to the showers, they also have representatives of other agencies who may be able to give assistance to the homeless people. And that idea has been replicated all over the country, which is interesting, that not only is it transformational in Palm Beach County, but people have been able to use that idea.
And it's not just figuratively transformational, it is literally.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, in
Transformational.
that case. In some areas, the grants also cover the arts and culture. We determined that at least this first year we were not going to branch out that far. One of the grants in the Chicago area was a theater project that not only concentrated on those skills, but brought in the ideas of justice and other things that youth especially needed to know about, and to learn how to deal with confrontation and other challenges that they would have in their life. In Santa Rosa County here in Florida, the money was used for a Native American cultural center for people, and especially children and young people, to be able to learn more about their Native American culture, and so that it didn't get lost.
Do some of the projects, though, have restrictions on Capitol buildings and things of that nature?
I suppose, although we do cover both program and project, because with that amount of money, you probably have some kind of capital outlay.
Yeah.
So that they're.
But it shouldn't be just the capital outlay. It has to, because you have to have something to go.
Yes,
You
that
have to
it's
be
gonna
able
do
to
something.
implement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it does, which is also different from a great many grants. Most grants are strictly problematic, programmatic.
Programmatic, yes.
Yeah.
And, you're looking for sustainability, too. So that means, again, we mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but it's worth repeating that whatever project wins, it's got to be something that the organization will be able to support and keep going, or else
Exactly.
Right.
it's not
But-
as
and-
useful.
And if it is both a project and a program that wins, and there's capital outlay, it seems to me that sustaining the project may not necessitate $100,000 a year. So if you already have the infrastructure for whatever it is that is going to make an impact on the community, keeping it going probably is going to involve maintenance, it's going to involve salaries, but you're not going to have a repeat of your original outlay.
So can you, if your organization won the 100,000, could you take it and have it budgeted out over a 3 to 5 year program?
No.
No, it's 12 months, and in most cases it would be given in increments, not one big check for $100,000. And I think that there probably are instances where it might be extended somewhat, but the intent is for it to be 12 months.
For it
Right.
to be
project.
life changing within
Right.
12 months.
And I think an example that was given not too long ago was like, say it was a program that was going to be implemented within the school system. Well, it might be that you can't start that until, the beginning of that
Right,
semester
right.
or whatever.
Right.
So there might be some, as Chris said, there might be some, it might not just be a 12-month period, but that is the intent, the 12-month period.
Who are the agencies? What other type of qualifications does a agency need? You can't be a government agency to
Right,
apply,
have
and
to
you
be-
can't
have
be
to
a private.
501c3.
So you have to be a 501c3.
And in general, you have to have been in business as a 501c3 for 3 years.
So you can't just start a 501c3 in order to get the Impact
No, right.
100
Yes,
money.
right. And that is part of the sustainability.
Right.
We want to know that you have a track record.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so of course, when we do the site visits, that's really, we want to be sure that they have a board that is engaged, that knows what they're doing, that, the questions that we ask are not, that can be answered. I think that, again, we have some really business savvy women on our, within our group, as you well know. So, doing these site visits and the grant review process, we will have vetted those into those groups or organizations that will, be successful.
And then of the number of people that you had at the workshop this year, you'll probably have even more next year, and hopefully more letters of intent come through, and then more grants. And if you submit for a grant and you didn't get it, can you submit again next year?
Yes, and also too, I think that we talked about this at that at the training. If the Martin County Community Foundation will be happy to share with them what was lacking in their application.
So you can actually add what's needed to it.
Yeah. So again,
Yeah.
it can strengthen their opportunity for the coming year. And squirrel moment, I have to mention this before I actually forget. All right, we were talking about the number of women, right, in Impact 100. Well, Pensacola has more than 1,000 women. More than 1,000 women.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
10 every year.
Yes.
Yes.
10 $100,000 grants in a community every single year.
All the people whose lives are changing.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And when you add up the amount of money that has been given in $100,000 increments since this initiative started 15 years ago. It's well over $50 million, which is not chump change.
No, it
I
is not.
know.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
let's talk again about, some of the things that, if you're listening and you're a volunteer with an agency and you want to apply for next year, you can, come and get some information. Look on the Community Foundation Martin St. Lucie page to check that out. Can other people come to the Impact 100 award ceremony?
Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, we would love for anyone who wants to come. And we're hoping that all of our members will invite a woman to come. It's 50 to...
What better way to get them
Yes.
excited
Oh my
about
gosh.
it, right?
Yes. So the luncheon and award celebration, it's $50 per person. Certainly men can come too. I would love
So you
for
can come to the awards celebration.
yes. And we were so fortunate that we were invited to Impact 100 Martin County to their award celebration last year, and to steal Lisa Floyd's comments, it was electrifying to be in a room with more than 100 women and to see this organization receive a $100,000 grant. I mean, it gave us goosebumps.
And again, if you're looking either to become part of the organization by being an Impact 100 member at the commitment of $1,100 a year, or if you're looking at down the line of applying for the grant, coming to watch and see those organizations that were chosen as finalists present, to see what you aspire to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if you'd like to be one of the sponsors of that event, there will be probably 150 women, many of whom are prominent in this community, who will be there, and you will be able to get your name in front of them.
Yes, and that's really another good point that was made recently, and I don't know if you made this, Chris, or not, but when we were talking about the letters of intent and the grant review committee, grant review process committee, we said even if an organization doesn't win or doesn't become a finalist, it is another way for us, all of us women, to learn about these other organizations that we may not have known about.
That's very true too. And on the other side too, everyone who is either giving you a letter of intent or moves on to the grant process has an opportunity to have their information and their needs seen by these women. Some of them who are they're all very philanthropic, but some who may want to be, to take their project to help them take it to the next level, even if they don't win the Impact 100.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe volunteer as a volunteer with the organization, or be on their board, or give them a partial check to
Right.
cover some of the funds and get them started on their way on their
Exactly.
project. Impact 100. So who would have thought that when you all came together with the ideas that there were people who said, "Oh, there's not 100 women in St. Lucie County who will step forward."
I know.
They did.
Yes.
But
that's
we
what's-
knew that we
yeah.
could do it.
That's what's sparked us, I think, because when we first started, there's always naysayers, but when we first started talking about it, it was, we had some women say, well, the women in St. Lucie, don't give the same way as women in Martin or Indian River.
Well,
And
little
we were
do
like,
they know.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh! And I'm like, what? Why do you think women in St. Lucie County aren't business savvy? Women of means and women of influence. So, we had our first 100 within 12 months.
Yeah, within the year.
And now again, you're at 123 now. So when you make the award, the winner will get 100,000, and then the second and third place will split that 23. Or is it possible that there'll be more by then, or is whatever else is going to go toward next year?
Cutoff really was the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
So however many we had then.
Because otherwise you could just keep adding.
119 or 20. So chances are that the second and third place will get $10,000 each.
Which is still a grand amount to get started.
Yes.
And two, for everyone that's listening, and if you'd like to join or sponsor, we are a 501c3, so everything is tax deductible.
So you can. And Debbie Butler and Chris Adams have been my guests today. You also do have a Facebook group for Impact 100.
Yes.
So that would be an easy way for people to
absolutely.
link to Impact 100 St. Lucie. Debbie Butler and Chris Adams have been my guests. You've been listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. I'm here every Friday evening with more. Have a great week. We'll see you next time with more.
Archives of the Sue Ellen Sanders Show can be found on YouTube under WPSL TV. In fact, www.wpsltv.com takes you directly to the WPSL archives of the videos. Some of our programming right here on WPSL.